Well, joining me now are three of the country's best political minds. Joe Conason, columnist with Salon.com. We have Miguel Perez, syndicated columnist and CNN contributor. And Tara Wall, deputy editor for the Washington Times. And thanks for being with us. You know, I think we should start with the beer summit. To me, that was one of the more intriguing aspects of the week of news. Miguel, your thoughts on that?
I was a little bit disappointed. I expected more to come out of that summit, if that's what you want to call it. You know, I really wanted these two guys, the sergeant and the professor, to come out and say, listen, we were both a little wrong here, and let's mend things, but let's have the whole country mend things. Let's both of us work on racial profiling with the president's support. I needed a plan or something.
Closure, did you?
I wanted something constructive to come out of that, and it didn't.
Tara, you actually in your column called it a sideshow. Elaborate on that a bit for us.
Well, it was a sideshow to sidestep the, verbal gaffe that the president admittedly made, which, some say amounted to apology, others didn't. But I also said, I wouldn't express disappointment because I was a little bit cynical early on. I probably, I was hopeful, but still cynical in that nothing probably would really come out of it, in that it was obvious these men the two men involved had very strong positions on both sides, and that this was more of what the president had talked about we shouldn't be doing, is simply just talking about race as opposed to doing anything about it. It was obvious that was not going to take place, which begs the question of why. And then we were focusing as the media was focusing on all the wrong things, focusing on what kinds of beer these guys were going to drink, what kind of picnic table they were going to have, as opposed to, I think if they had been challenged a bit more on what the substantive issues were going to be, or at least the substantive conversation that was going to come about, or anything forthcoming that was going to come about, I think we could have and should have expected more. But, short of that, no one was really questioning what they should have been questioning, and how this was going to raise the discussion of race relations in general, not just racial profiling. I think we all recognize that that's not what happened here. But if you're going to raise the level of discussion about race, then let's start with a conversation. But that also starts with an apology.
You seem to be blaming the press's coverage of it as much as the substance of the event. Joe, thoughts on this?
Well, I thought from the president's point of view, it worked out as well as it possibly could, because he doesn't want the subject changed to racial profiling. That was an accident and a mistake, a trap that he fell into. He wanted to cool things out, and I think Professor Gates and Sergeant Crowley helped him do that with their statements afterwards. I think, Professor Gates even showed a sense of humor about it. He said, Sergeant Crowley's not a bad guy or a likable guy when he's not arresting you. And that kind of put a friendly coda on the whole thing that was, I think, the best the president could have hoped for at this point.
But imagine how much more the country could have gained if these two guys got together now and said, listen, now we're going to work together to work on this problem.
But Miguel, they did say that. I mean, basically, they Professor Gates said it's incumbent on us to try to continue this discussion afterwards, not necessarily in the White House, because that's not what the president wants. I think in Cambridge, perhaps, they'll talk about this, and maybe they'll meet again. But from President Obama's point of view, this isn't the subject that he wants at the top of the agenda right now, and I think he's right.
And I think that, and Sergeant Crowley also pointed out, we will simply agree to disagree. So to that extent, there's not going to be any movement in that regard as far as who's going to agree with whom and who's going to apologize to whom, and frankly, who's teaching whom. And so what the president did, though, is he recognized, and the polls bear it out, is that he really put his foot in it, if you will, and wanted to do something to resolve this quickly so it wouldn't hurt him, essentially, politically. It already has somewhat, and I think he realized that. And I think it had a lot more to do with that. I don't question his motivation for wanting to put race out there, but I do question his real lack of acknowledgement that there's any real ability to actually do anything beyond making this a photo op.
All right, Tara, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back with some other subjects, and we'll have more with our panel in just a moment.
Whether you consider it a cruiser or a clunker, you can turn it into cash. Get to your Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep dealer and get up to double the government's cash for your old car. Now get up to $4,500 for your old car, plus up to an additional $4,500 cash allowance. No turn-in? No problem. Your Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep dealer guarantees everyone up to $4,500 cash allowance on virtually every model. Get to your Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep dealer on the double and get double cash for your old car.
This is your summer? You serious? Why are you in my yard?
Don't you want to get out there? I got hotels everywhere. Hit the road. How about a chili cook-off? Bumper cars, lake swimming.
Okay.
Oh, boogie boarding.
Sure.
Man, there's all sorts of super destinations. You just gotta go. Save summer with Super 8. Save 15% and register to win daily free nights. I'll feed you free breakfast.
CNN Next. Campbell Brown, a voice of reason. Brown's reporting is worth cheering. Campbell Brown, your 8 p.m. alternative. CNN Next.
Homeowners, are you finding it harder and harder to keep up with your monthly mortgage payments? Are you at risk of falling behind? Here's some good news. Right now is the perfect time to refinance your current home loan, and TopDot is ready to help. With fixed rates starting as low as 5%, refinancing could save you hundreds of dollars every month. The president has stated that mortgage interest rates are near historic lows and that up to 40% of all mortgages are now eligible for refinancing. Refinance today and see how much you could be saving. Call the number on your screen right now to qualify. Here's even more good news for homeowners. TopDot now offers FHA government-insured loans with 30-year fixed rates as low as 5%. Our process is simple. You can get approved in just minutes. Call today and TopDot will pay for your home appraisal. That's a $500 value. Homeowners should call now and see how much you could be saving each month. Call the number on your screen right now to qualify.
This is CNN.
We're back with our political panel. I'd like to move on to the subject of health care, gentlemen, and Tara. And one of the things that intrigues me is President Obama's former physician, Dr. David Shiner, says he doesn't like the president's health care proposals. He feels like it's a succession of compromises, and that really sort of strikes me that his own physician is worried about this, especially in the cost structure of it. Miguel, your thoughts on this?
You know, because it is a succession of compromises, I don't think the doctor knows what we're talking about. I don't think President Obama knows what we're talking about. There are so many things going around regarding this plan, this health care reform, that nobody knows exactly what is being proposed. The American public certainly don't know, and that is what's causing all the problem and the confusion. If the president had a definitive plan and he was proposing, this is exactly what I want. Instead, what he's saying is, let's see what comes about, and then maybe I'll go along with it, and I'll like it, and I'll take credit for it. And the American people can see right through that.
It's an extremely difficult issue. I think you will give him that. Tara, quickly, what's your thoughts on the president's approach to health care?
It's true, and I think he should have done more on the front end to listen to what constituents and taxpayers and Americans were saying. They were saying that this plan is not palatable. The polls have borne that out. They say they don't like, 56% don't want an overhaul. 80% like their insurance. They want to keep it. So I think that having that in consideration and recognizing now that the Blue Dogs...
72% say they want the public option. I mean, like, you can find a poll that says anything, I mean, about this, because people
Sure, but the public
don't know.
didn't like it, and he has to acknowledge that the Blue Dogs had to be responsible to their constituents, and at the end of the day, I think it'll be more like health care insurance,
all the members of Congress
reform.
are responsive to their constituents, Tara, not just the Blue Dogs. The president came in with an aim to do something about health care. It's been a festering problem for 60 years. It's not true that he didn't say anything about what he wanted. He laid out principles for what he wanted to change in the healthcare system as it stands now.
Very vague,
and he
though.
said to, no, they were very specific. And the president said, please, in Congress, come up with bills that will meet these proposals, and I'll consider signing them.
Yeah. He
That's
left
what
it
he
up to
did.
Congress. Yeah, he left it up to Congress, and Lord knows they know how to spend all our money.
He didn't just leave it up to Congress. He has to sign the bill, and that's how the system works.
Sure.
We have to hold it there. Thanks very much. We will be debating this for a while, though, I think. Joe Conason, Miguel Perez, and Tara Wall, thank you very much. Coming up at the top of the hour, John Robertson for Campbell Brown. John?
Hey, Kitty. Great discussion tonight, by the way. Tonight, coming up at 8 o'clock, what really happened the day that Michael Jackson died.